Hi guys, this is gsnhome.com and I'm here with a review of the Huawei P20 Lite. So this is actually the first Huawei phone that had a notch. I don't know if you know this, but it was actually unveiled before the P20 and the P20 Pro and inaugurated the notch approach. It was launched in March, basically this spring. It's got a dual camera compared to the predecessor. It's made of glass and metal and it's one of the most narrow phones I've seen, incredibly narrow. The fact that my thumb can reach this finger here shows how narrow this device is. Incredibly light, even lighter than the paper shows, and it's priced at around $294 on Amazon.com. Looks pretty premium for a mid-range, and it's a rival for the Asus Zenfone 5 Lite and a few other phones. It's also known as the Huawei Nova 3E in some countries in the world. Now, let's talk about the design. So, of course, glass and metal, glass at the front, glass at the back, with a few smudges already from my fingers, and metal in between them. It feels very comfy, it's very narrow, but the backside draws some grease, some prints, and also this camera here, like the P20 Pro, attracts lint and other pocket stuff. It's got excellent one-hand usage, it's got excellent grip, it will not slip from the hand, the buttons responded well to my commands, it's elegant, it's well built. You wouldn't tell it's a $200, $300 phone, it's built like a $500, $600 or even $700 handset. Now, other things, it's available in blue, pink or black, and it measures 7.4 millimeters in thickness and weighs a crazy 145 grams, which for a 5.84 incher is actually great. Now, speaking of which, 5.84 inches is the diagonal here, and we're operating on a Full HD Plus panel, IPS LCD, 19:9 aspect, and a notch, plus 80% screen to body ratio. We got some big-ish bezels on the sides for sure, and when it comes to the video playback, let's see what we experienced. So we got a test video, and the video player we're using includes a pop-up play feature, so you can actually use a sort of picture-in-picture option and do other things while watching video. Pixels here are of the RGB straps arrangement, but before that, got I would say reasonable contrast, but the sun, if it's strong, it's not actually impressive. A pretty okay brightness, wide view angles, and I feel that the screen has a bit too much white, so it tends to make the colors feel a bit washed out sometimes. And once again, the contrast could be better in full sunlight. Now, let's get to our tests, because those are the thing that matters. We go here, these are the pixels, RGB straps, pixel arrangement under the microscope, and the brightness test took us to 368 lux units. This is certainly no record. Usually anything above 400 is good. This is not 400. It's basically above Huawei Mate 9 Pro, above HTC Ultra, above HTC U12 Plus, but below the Galaxy J5 2017, below Huawei Nova Plus, and below HTC U11 Life. So quite a few phones out there. Not very bright. Maybe I expected a tad more. Now, if you want some tweaks, you got brightness, you got your color mode here with a palette to choose your favorite color from, eye comfort to get rid of the blue light and make you sleep better, home screen style, full screen display. You can even go ahead and hide the notch if you want to. Pretty straightforward. You got your view mode, you got your text size and a screen resolution. You can go to HD plus and save some battery. Overall, it's an okay screen. If it weren't for the pesky measurements, you would actually say it's an excellent screen. Now, as far as the hardware is concerned, we do here a bunch of tests, we analyze what's inside, and we find out that we have a pretty familiar CPU. It's the Kirin 659 octa-core, accompanied by 4 GB of RAM and 32 or 64 GB of storage, plus a micro SD card slot. The same CPU can be seen on the Huawei Honor 9i and the Huawei Y9 2018 and the Huawei P Smart. Now, the phone itself has never suffered from lag one bit, so that's nice. We never had problems with that. And we also played a bunch of games. We tried to play Riptide GP Renegade and it worked okay. We tried to play the new Life is Strange. It fumbled a bit of lag. It's a more intense game, and we played Castle Crypts Battle, which worked okay. So mixed experience. In general, you'll be fine with the core of the games. You may have some trouble with PUBG or not even play it at all. But I have to mention again, I have problems with Life is Strange, which is a pretty intense game coming from the consoles and the PC, but I'm pretty sure you can play something like Asphalt 8, even Asphalt 9 on it. Okay, so Riptide looks like this and goes like this. Unlike the last Huawei phone we tested, the Y7 Prime 2018, this certainly does not suffer from lag. Has some pretty nice effects, good frame rate, no stutter, no lag, and nice reflections. Now we cannot talk only about games, we also have to talk about benchmarks, and for those we have the usual tests, you know, Antutu, Nenamark, so forth. So in Antutu 6 we beat the Sony Xperia X82 Ultra, the Motorola Moto X4 and the Huawei P20 Lite, scored below the Motorola Moto G6 Plus, Asus Zenfone 3 and the Nokia 6.1. Okay, so we're done with Antutu 6. Let's talk about Antutu 7, which is more relevant. This actually placed us above the above the Xiaomi Redmi 5 Plus and also the Samsung Galaxy A6 2018, but below the Sony Xperia X82 Ultra and the HTC U11 Live, as well as below the Nokia 6.1, well, yet again. Now, when it comes to Geekbench, this is the result we scored, pretty okay for a mid-ranger, above Samsung Galaxy A6 2018, Galaxy J5 2017, below Zenfone 3, HTC U11 Live and Moto X4, and for some reason I expected more. I was most disappointed in the graphical benchmarks, which are pretty poor, actually very poor. Anything related to 3D Mark and Slingshot is placed on the 100th spot, and even less than Moto G5, so that's underwhelming. And I've seen phones that are priced much better, which have much better results, almost double in Antutu, like the AllView X5 Sol Pro has double the score of this phone in Antutu. And another problem is overheating. Now, in benchmarks, things were okay, 38.5 degrees Celsius in GFX bench, but when you're gaming, even in Riptide, 43.8 degrees. Now imagine if you are doing some serious gaming and for more than 15 minutes, then you have a problem. So overheating may happen in games. On the battery front, a typical 3000 mAh lithium polymer unit is in the mix, and let's see what we got. We also have the promise of fast charging, but let's leave that aside for now and try to see how the video playback stands. So we obtained 7 hours 46 minutes of continuous HD video playback, which is rather underwhelming. It may beat the Huawei Honor 8 and the Asus Zenfone Zoom or the Huawei P9, but scores below the Huawei Mate 10 Lite, Galaxy A5 first generation and LG AKA, so not impressive for sure. Also underwhelming, the mere 5 hours 24 minutes of continuous usage, pretty poor, actually the 171st spot. It may beat the LG G4 and the first Xperia XA, but it gets beaten by the Nokia 7 Plus, and I'm mentioning it for special reason because it doubles this score, so it has 10 hours and 48, something like that, instead of 5 hours and 24. It's also below the Nokia 1 and the Nubia N1 from ZTE, so underwhelming. And the charging is done in 2 hours and 3 minutes, rather okay, with 30 minutes of charging equaling 35% charge, 1 hour 63%, and that's about it. So it sounds pretty underwhelming, not very good for today's options. And power saving modes include, of course, power saving mode, ultra power saving mode, and you can adjust the screen resolution smartly to save some juice. So in the end, it could and should have been better. Now on the acoustics front, things are pretty simple. Only this speaker here, you will not cover it in landscape mode, that's the good news. No equalizer at first, but then you'll find one. They have a pretty basic music app, and by they I mean Huawei. Let's listen to some music. Okay, so you can probably already tell by comparing this review to other reviews that the volume isn't the highest in the world, it's just okay. The bass is so-so, the sides will vibrate a bit when you're listening to music. Nice guitar, nice violin and voices, and that's about it. Not a very memorable experience. We have FM radio, we do not have bundle headphones. We have those special high-stand options activated with the headphones, equalizer, headset type, 3D audio, etc. Now we have a special decibel meter to evaluate the sound, and the results we achieved are as follows. I'm going to start off with this one, so be patient. We got 80.7 decibels with a typical audio sample at the front and back. Not very impressive. It beats the Motorola Moto Z Play, Moto G5 and LG V10, but scores below Nokia 6.1 and Xperia XA1. The other test involves the game, you know, Riptide, and in Riptide we got to 90.9 decibels, and with this value we actually beat the Galaxy S9 Plus, Motorola Moto Z Play, but scored below the Xiaomi Mi A1, Nokia 6 and Xperia X-A2. So quite a few phones, quite a few mid-ranges with rival prices beat this one, so certainly not a Walkman, that's for sure. Now we're done with that. Let's talk about the camera for a bit. The Huawei P10 Lite was okay at best. It had a single camera. The P20 Lite has a dual camera at the back. It's a combo of 16 and 2 megapixel, of course, for the sake of bokeh. There's an LED flash, and there's also here some technical specs printed here: dual lens, f2.2 aperture and all that. At the front, an impressive 16 megapixel shooter with f2.2 aperture, and the options are actually pretty generous. We got your portrait mode, you got your wide aperture, you got your moving shots, and quite a few modes. We even have raw capture in pro mode. You got HDR, night shot, AR lens, light painting, and AR lens will let you put some cute masks on, like whiskers, ears, cat eyes, cat ears, and so forth. You also have a beauty mode. But now let's go straight into the gallery and draw some conclusions about the camera's capabilities. As you can see, we have a huge amount of shots, and as you can see, some of them are pretty colored. We had a pretty mixed day of sun and clouds, and here we go. My first impression was that the things were too bright and the sky was white here, but when I activated HDR, we actually could see the clouds and the blue hue of the sky. The colors are pretty okay calibrated. You will not get much out of the zoom. You will lose details fast, up to 2x or 3x. But when you zoom in on the PC or on the landscape shots you took, you'll be satisfied with the results. So once again, solid colors and flagship level close-ups. When it comes to the close-ups, when it comes to the bokeh shots even, this can easily be on par with the Huawei P20 Pro, and yes, I said it. It can rival the P20 Pro in the excellent way of taking bokeh shots and close-ups. So flagship level. Once again, excellent colors. If this were the P20 Pro, it would have burnt the greens. You know, it has a problem with the greens, but here somehow the colors are better calibrated. So it appears that the AI may sometimes mess you up. Even more shots. I was generally satisfied with the clarity here. Once again, no HDR and HDR. Satisfied with the details, unless we're zooming in. We did some moving shots here and there. Make it move like that. Not very useful. I was listening to Prodigy, by the way. Some selfies which were underwhelming at first. Why underwhelming? Because somehow the background was clearer than my face. My face will be blurred in a lot of shots, and that's annoying. So look behind me, excellent clarity here, but when it comes to the face, there is a slight bit of blur happening, and that's slightly annoying. Of course, I got pretty good results when I applied beauty, and I also took the portrait shot, but somehow things didn't exactly match. It reminded me of the time I used Xperia X-A2 and X-A2 Ultra and found them focusing on the background, not on me, which is weird. Check this out, no HDR and HDR, once again in action. In general, I was satisfied with the colors and the clarity. Things were quite nice, even though I'm not very happy with the panorama I took because it gets a bit moved in the center area. I tried some extra shots here, and it may be the lack of sun, it may be the shades, but these shots were actually better. So selfies will improve, but it's not a constant camera, that's the problem. I took too many failed shots to be happy with something like 5 shots, and once again, the focus on the background is too good, so I see every detail on the background. Is that a bride? Anyways, and the face not as clear as I want it to be, especially for a 16 megapixel shooter. And yes, I played with the AR options. So overall, I would say that the phone here feels about on the same level as the Motorola Moto G6 Plus. It's below the Nokia 7 Plus, it's above the HTC U11 Live, and just slightly above the Samsung Galaxy A6 2018. These are daytime shots. Let's go to the creepy time of the night. Now here I was actually surprised. The clarity was okay, the flash is actually not bad. Some would say it's actually too bright and too white. Pretty good color calibration. Some phones out there, something like HTC U11 Live, even the Samsung phone I mentioned before, some Motorola's, they have trouble with the nighttime. They implement orange hues, yellow hues, purple hues. This one doesn't. Yes, I did catch a few moved shots, but in general I was happy with the hues. Pretty big streetlight halos, but they got smaller later. Good clarity, so overall feels like a progress. I went back and watched the P10 Lite shots, and it's actually much better. something like 20 or 30%, so evolution is welcome. It beats Nokia 6.1, it beats the Motorola Moto G5 models from last year, but it's slightly below what you can achieve with an Oreo X5 Soul Pro. It feels a bit like the Motorola Moto G6 Plus minus the blue hue. That's the vibe I'm getting here, and less purple than the Samsung Galaxy A6 2018. Okay, that's it. Let's talk about the videos now. Now, as far as the video capture is concerned, here we go. We got here the video section, and let's see the videos we took with this handset. So it's all about Full HD, MP4, 17 megapixels and 30 frames per second. That's the data we're working with. And I'm going to start with this clip here. First things first, pretty nice color calibration. I was happy with the color choice here. The reds were reds, the greens were green, and so forth. So here we go. A bit of shakiness may appear, so the electronic stabilization isn't exactly optimal. Not bad clarity, and also not a bad sky. Some phones mess up the sky. When you try to zoom in, you'll certainly lose some detail, actually a lot of them if you go past 2x. The first impression is that we're filming better than the Huawei Mate 10 Lite, and I have to admit that the microphone was very, very good. I caught voices, I caught cars going around, I caught birds, small talk around me, the music I was listening to, everything got caught on camera. Pretty solid microphone, pretty nice clarity, nice exposure change without a sudden exposure change. Every once in a while the green feels a bit messed up if there's too much sun around, but that's basically the only drawback, together with the you know, the lack of proper image stabilization. And we also walked around a bit and we did the stabilization test. It's this one here. We're walking around listening to Prodigy, and as you can see, things aren't well stabilized, but there's a but. We don't have refocusing, we don't have that annoying image flicker, so that's no problem here, and also no burn. It was a very sunny day and we don't have a burn. I know this green is too vivid, but no burn, so that's a plus. We also tested the front camera as we usually do for the selfie video walking around, and it's truly not bad. Truly not bad. Nice skin texture, face texture. That was a swift exposure change. Electronic stabilization is on point. It's above the Huawei P10 Lite, P9 Lite 2017 by about 20%. And aside from the poor distance, some greens, and the electronic stabilization, things are a-okay. We're below the Motorola Moto G6 Plus, but above the Oreo X5 Soul Pro by a bit. This is daytime video. Let's go to the nighttime video. We don't have many things here, just one clip. So things are pretty dark here, as you can see, but a decent clarity and a nice level of colors. Usually we run into some sort of weird orange or purple or red hue. Okay size of street light halos, nice microphone again, not that much of a zoom. So I would say that we're within range. It feels superior to the Xiaomi Mi A1 and the Moto G5 phones from last year. Less bright than the Oreo X5 Soul Pro, and it got a better bitrate than the Oreo handset I just mentioned. Okay, so that's about it. Some pleasant surprises, especially the microphone, maybe the filming, and certainly the close-ups. On the browser front, we're dealing with Chrome, good old Chrome, and let's access gsm.com. The benchmarks were underwhelming for the browser. I'm talking about SunSpider and Velamo, but the actual speed is kind of nice. For input, we got your Swift key and we got your swipe. Now on the connectivity front, the phone is available in a dual SIM version, in a single SIM version, and it comes with 4G LTE, GPS, AGPS, GLONASS, Beidou, Wi-Fi A, B, GN, AC. There is a micro USB 2.0 port at the bottom. There is an audio jack. There's Bluetooth 4.2, Bluetooth Low Energy, NFC, and FM radio, and the calls were loud and clear. We also have extra options here. Once again, the microphone was tip-top, got speed dial and pocket mode, and we also did a bunch of speed tests to see how we're doing when it comes to the 4G and Wi-Fi. So on Wi-Fi we had pleasant surprises, 219 megapixels downloads, 24.9 megapixels uploads, solid. 4G not that impressive, 54.2 download, 38.7 upload. Time to talk about the software, and if you've been keeping up with us, if you saw, for example, the latest review we did for the Huawei Huawei Y7 Prime 2018, it's basically the same experience. It's Android 8.0 with EMUI 8.0 on top, typical EMUI. We got a lock screen here with its shortcuts, quite useful. We got a Google feed with a bunch of news and some weather info here. We got this typical approach, which is rather abstract, stuck in the world of iOS 7, skeuomorphic and all that. We got a carousel for the multitasking, but you can also do split screen, and on one side of the screen you can have GSM DOM and browse around. On the other side of the screen you can have video and start watching stuff or browsing, and that's split screen. Other than that, we go further, keep the home screen pressed, and you can play with wallpapers, widgets, transitions and settings, a few of them useful, layout, loop and so forth. As you can see, I'm using the drawer setup. You can also opt for the classical one with all the apps on the home screen. Now the drop down section is also rather typical. We got here notifications, we got your quick settings, and then we come to the interesting part, the options for connectivity. Got the storage cleaner here. We got some useful accessibility stuff, one-hand UI, motion control, voice control, smart cover and so forth. Now security is an interesting one. The fingerprint scanner is very fast, has a 10-step setup, and the face unlock is more interesting. I was actually impressed by the face unlock on the Huawei Y7 Prime 2018, so I was curious to see how it's handled on this pricier phone. Faster setup for sure. Now let's see if the face unlock is just as fast. It's pretty fast, but I feel that on the Zenfone 5 it was a bit faster. Okay, we're done with that, and I feel the need to tell you again that the fingerprint scanner is faster than this actually. Okay, these are the options, and now when it comes to the pre-installed apps, I will have to say we're dealing with bloatware. There are 53 apps. You got your app gallery here, which is basically a sort of app store that Huawei implements, and we have backup, we have booking.com, a calculator, Drive, Duo, Facebook, Game Suite, Mirror, Netflix, and the most useful one is certainly Phone Manager, which cleans up your stuff, handles the mobile data, sees what's blocked and has a virus scanner, and that's about it. Now it's time for the verdict. So a nice thing to do here while I'm saying the verdict is actually a bit of a surprise for you. I'm going to go ahead and play some Asphalt 9 on this phone. It was launched recently, so Asphalt 9 it is on the Huawei P20 Lite. So pros and cons, verdict time. On the pro side, nice design, a comfy phone, an okay-ish display, at least color-wise I would say. Okay acoustics, great close-ups from the camera, and pretty solid bokeh capture with dual back shooter, solid colors during picture taking, and I would say okay video capture, and also pretty okay face unlock mechanism. Those are the pros. On the con side, poor battery, poor GPU, at least according to the benchmark. As you can see, it runs Asphalt 9, it also runs PUBG, but there's a bit of overheating, another problem. It's a bit pricey compared to what you can get from Xiaomi. Not very loud speakers, so we haven't passed a certain threshold. By the way, this music is copyrighted, so you may want to hold from using it. Okay, so I'm playing Asphalt 9. As you can see, it's quite okay, but if you look at the details, you'll notice that things are pretty pixelated. Back to the cons. So poor battery, poor GPU, some overheating in games, tad pricey, not very loud, not constant selfies, actually a bit underwhelming selfies if you ask me. The brightness of the screen could have been a bit higher, electronic stabilization not that good in the videos, and lots of pre-installed apps. I would even go as far as to say there's a bit of bloatware happening here. Okay, now other things we're mentioning, it's time for the final conclusion. So it's a narrow phone with a solid design, takes a good bokeh and close-up, it's got okay audio and stellar microphone, so that's about it. It's probably a phone for the festival goers this summer because of the microphone and because maybe of the selfie videos and the videos in general, and also looks pretty posh to take at a festival. So a festival phone which you can use to play Asphalt 9, but beware of overheating. This is from gsmdom.com. Bye bye.